brings me to the investment products, because I find this is where a lot of the confusion comes. In fact, on Twitter today, I had someone who said, why should I invest in a tax-free investment when I could invest in exchange-traded fund? No, a tax-free investment is not a product itself. Tax-free investment is the ring fencing of certain existing products to make them tax efficient. So as I said, you could just as easily invest in a balanced fund, unit trust fund, identical fund, except you select and you tick the box that says TFI or TFSA, depending on what they call it, and your growth is ring fenced from tax. Okay, so you can invest in unit trusts, you can invest in exchange traded funds, and bank accounts. So I'm going to get to bank accounts just now, but any of those investments you may have. If you've got any investments, some of you may have exchange traded funds. They're very popular. These are funds that you invest in that just track an index. They give you the average return of the Johannesburg's top 40, or they give you the average return of the global markets. Whatever they are, those are quite popular products. You could just as easily open it, the same product with the same company. You just tick the TFSA box. Okay, that's all. It's the same product, same return. There's no additional fees. It's exactly the same thing. So again, for me, I don't understand why somebody would not have their investment starting at least that first 36,000 Rand a year protected from tax. So bank accounts. Now to get onto bank accounts. Bank accounts, I think, have really benefited from the mislabeling of tax-free savings accounts, because people call them savings accounts and they think, oh, this is for savings, it's not for long-term investing. I don't necessarily believe that bank accounts are the best place for your tax-free investments, and I'm going to explain now why. You can buy that, and many of you listening possibly already have them, but I'm going to explain now why you may want to rethink this. Remember earlier on, I told you that you could get 23,800 Rand interest exemption from tax anyway. And that meant nearly 500,000 Rand if you were earning 5%. So you're getting that anyway. You don't even have to only limit yourself to 36,000 Rand a year. You could go today and put a lump sum of 500,000 Rand in the bank. And if that is all the interest you're earning, you wouldn't pay tax on it. So why use your incredibly valuable tax-free investment allocation of only 36,000 Rand a year to invest in an interest-bearing bank account? Doesn't make sense, right? The second thing is these are really designed for long-term investing. Remember that lifetime limit. If you're using this for your emergency fund or to save for the next 2 years, and then you're drawing it out, you're wasting that lifetime limit. So for me, really just, if I had one thing, is just really there's just been too much marketing around tax-free savings accounts within banks. I want you to start thinking about this as your investments in things like property and, well, listed property, equities, offshore, the markets. This is really what it's designed for. It's for market investing, unit trust, exchange traded funds, not bank accounts. Oh, before I move, one of the things and one of the pushbacks I get, and I think one of the reasons people do invest in cash is because they're scared. They're scared of the stock markets. I understand. This year has been terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I can tell you that on the 31st of March, when I received my quarterly statements from my investments, I didn't open them. They came in email form. I just didn't open them because I had seen what had happened locally and internationally on the stock markets, and I thought, I don't want to know. Okay, I don't need to have a heart attack right now. So people see that and they get really, really scared. What I can tell you is that the debit, if you were paying in on a debit order that went off on the 31st of March is up 30% because markets bounce all over the place. So if you are investing monthly, and of course you put a lump sum in January, you're probably not very happy right now. But if you were investing monthly, in March and April and May, whilst the markets were down and then recovering, you've actually made a pretty good return. And I'm going to show you how that works. And most of us are going to invest in a tax. You can only really invest because it's not a lot of money that you can put in. Most of us are going to be investing 3,000 Rand a month, or maybe once a year with 36,000. But we're not going to be putting in 100,000 Rand because we can't. So just take this this is not actually what the markets did this year. This is just an example. So say you were investing 2,000 Rand a month. January, you buy into a unit trust fund or an exchange traded fund, and the price of the units is 10 Rand per unit. So you buy 200 units, simple maths. Suddenly the market falls 15%. And it's some catastrophe, you're reading the headlines, the price of those units has dropped from 10 Rand to 8 Rand 50. But look what happens to the number of units you buy. Suddenly you buy 235 units. It's the same 2,000 Rand, exactly the same 2,000 Rand, nothing's changed there, but you've got more units. The market falls another 10%. Your units have gone down to 7 Rand 65. But look how many units you're buying. You're buying 261 units. You're like, hold on a second. This is a sale. My 2,000 Rand is buying me, instead of 200 units, 261 units. Now, what's really interesting to me is that when markets fall, people want to take their money out the market when it's cheap. When shoes go on sale in the store, we all run off and we go and buy more shoes. We don't go and throw all our shoes out in our shoe cupboard. So we need to start thinking about this. So on the 31st of March, when the markets were absolutely looking terrible, was that the time to take your money out? Or was it the time to say, wow, my debit order is getting me 30% more than it was last month? Then if have a look here, markets recover as they are at the moment. By the way, the JSE is up for the year as of today. The market recovers 10%. Your price of units increases. You're buying 237 units. The market recovers another 10%. You're still getting more units than you were in January. But I want you to notice something. The market's still down. The market, you were paying 10 Rand for a unit. You're now paying 9 Rand 26. The market is still down. But what has happened to your investment value? You invested 10,000 Rand. You now have 1,150 units at 9 Rand 26. That's actually 10,651 Rand. So although the market is still down, you've made money. And this is called Rand cost averaging. This is because when markets are weak, you buy more shares or units at a lower price, and it actually improves your overall performance. Of course, if you put a lump sum in January, you would have seen a loss. Just understand this. I find this kind of thinking helps mitigate against some of that risk-taking fear. Now, I made quite a hard case about not using bank accounts, okay, for tax-free investments, but there is a time actually for it. And I had a great question from someone, I hope they're listening because I've answered this directly, we're putting together for them. They're a couple, 80 and 83 years old. They have predominantly cash investments and they are already earning more interest than their interest-free exempt combination, because remember they would get 34,000 odd, so they're earning more interest than even that. Would therefore, in that situation, a tax-free investment for a cash-based tax-free investment be quite a good solution?
Yeah, I'd agree. So I would agree with that. In that circumstances, you can actually use it as more of a liquid investment. They probably don't have another 50 years to invest, and therefore the 500,000 Rand lifetime cap is not so much of a concern. I mean, if you start saving at that point, think about it, you have 15 years in which to get, just less than 15 years, I think it's just under 14 years actually, in which to get 500,000 Rand in. And then hopefully at that point, the 500,000 Rand cap would be increased as well. So under those circumstances, I would agree. Liquidity is less of an issue in the sense that you want to try and get in as much as you possibly can at that point. And if you are doing it that way, you can access your funds. You can actually put it in and take it out in 2 or 3 years. So under those circumstances, I would agree that it would work, yes.
And I mean, as a couple, they can put 72,000 a year into the tax-free investment, and at least keep any interest there would not be taxable.